This is the kinesthetic learning exercise for the scapulohumeral muscles that we see in the scapular region of the shoulder. We're going to start by talking about the rotator cuff, and we're going to look at the rotator cuff muscles that specifically attach to the greater tubercle on the humerus. Start with, we have supraspinatus. As the name implies, the muscle originates from the supraspinous fossa, quite an extensive origin point just above the spine of the scapula, and then the fibers will run parallel underneath the acromion to attach to the anterior-most portion of the greater tubercle. Now, if you're looking at this muscle, you might be able to recognize that this isn't actually a rotator at all. Because of the way it attaches, it's actually going to pull directly up on the greater tubercle and is actually an abductor of the humerus. So it is part of the rotator cuff group, but it's the one muscle in the rotator cuff that does not actually do any sort of rotation. Next muscle in the group is infraspinatus, and again, the name is self-explanatory. It comes off of the infraspinous fossa, the region directly underneath the spine of the scapula, and the fibers are going to extend up and again attach to the greater tubercle, this time running posterior to the joint margin and attaching on the lateral aspect of the greater tubercle. So because of the fact that the fibers cross behind the joint line, it's going to be a lateral rotator of the shoulder joint. It's going to cause external rotation at the shoulder, bring the shoulder out, draw the hand. If the hand is in a flexed position, it's going to draw the hand away from the body. The third muscle in this group, very close attachment point to infraspinatus. It actually still comes off the infraspinous fossa. And when you do your dissection, you might actually have a difficult time distinguishing between this muscle and infraspinatus. This is your teres minor muscle. Teres is a Latin term meaning round, and this has a bit more of a roundish appearance than the flatter supraspinatus and infraspinatus, which is how it gets its name. So again, it comes off of the inferior portion of the infraspinous fossa, and in this case, it's going to attach to the posterior-most aspect of the greater tubercle. The fourth rotator cuff muscle is the one that attaches to the lesser tubercle along the medial aspect, anteromedial aspect of the humerus. This muscle is your subscapularis. As the name implies, it comes off of the subscapular fossa, very extensive origin point, and then all the fibers run up to attach it to the lesser tubercle. Now, if you're paying attention, you'll notice that this one passes anterior to the joint margin. So it's going to result in internal rotation, the opposite of what we see with infraspinatus and teres minor. So infraspinatus and teres minor are external rotators because they pass posterior to the joint. This one passes anterior to the joint, so it's going to be an internal rotator. The last muscle we have is not considered part of the rotator cuff because of the fact that it does not attach to either of the tubercles. This is your teres major. It gets its name from the fact that it's also round, so it's the bigger brother of teres minor. But whereas teres minor attaches to the greater tubercle, teres major is actually going to start off of the inferior angle of the scapula, very close to teres minor. But here's where we see the difference. When it approaches the humerus, the teres major is actually going to pass anterior to the humerus, and it's going to attach along that medial margin of the intertubercular groove, just posterior to the attachment point for latissimus dorsi. So it's not the easiest thing to distinguish in two dimensions, but because of the fact that it attaches anteriorly, it's actually running anterior to the joint margin. So much like what we saw with subscapularis, teres major is also a medial or internal rotator of the humerus because of how it passes that joint line, that joint margin.